All right, shalom, shalom. Pastor Corey here with O.I.M 3 Video E. And back to you, to finish out pretty much the remainder of the O.I.M Part 3 video. Because, it's time to get on to the enlargement, the imprint of the enlargement of the Gentiles. And so there's a few things I want you to understand before we go into this. I'm going to say this, I'm going to go on record and say it. I knew when I started this series that people would become upset. People would become enraged because of history. History that you say that you have nothing to do with, but not according to the Most High Yah. The Most High Yah is going to repay back even the children of the Grecians or the Greeks or the Gentiles for what their forefathers had done to his children. And he even says that you, the children of the Grecians, are going to be sold to the Sabians as the children of Israel were sold by your forefathers. It's in there. It's in Joel. So, I'm saying that because I have some interesting comments by people who obviously didn't hear what I said. Obviously, you don't watch the ministry and see how we have a very, very extremely mixed variation of people from all nations who have come to the ministry and accept the truth. See, the thing that you got to, I believe, come to grips with is conversion. You got to be converted. You got to be converted in the mind. You got to be converted in the heart. And you got to begin to see the likes of what the Bible is laying out. See, one thing about the truth is it is going to be preached to the ends of the earth as a witness unto the nations so that you can have an opportunity to hear or forbear the truth. As I look at the whole lopsidedness, the mix-up in the historical truth concerning the Israelites, concerning the descendants of Israel, then you see how much the world has put underfoot and put into bondage the true meaning of walking out salvation and serving in the capacity where we serve truth. I'm going to say this really quick and I'm going to get into finishing up our series. But I was talking to Kabir Baja Biamila, KGB, who is a Packer all-time great, who passed Reggie White as the sack leader of the Green Bay Packers and has in fact been inducted in the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame. So this is a pretty known individual. If you are a sports fanatic, if you're around the football arena. And we were talking last night, and he was just talking to me about something that I found very interesting because in the imprint of the enlargement and the imprint of the enlargement of part 4, all right? Yeah, we're going part 4. We got to beat this down in the ground. But when we get to understand that imprint, then we're going to understand why he was able to say this. He said that the judge stated, hey, I am a Christian, but it has no power to rule over the secular court system. And clearly the Bible forbade us as believers to not partake in that, especially when it's concerning matters of the brethren, when it's concerning matters in which Yah has already instructed on. Yah has instructed on marriage for the holy people. Yah has instructed on the right ruling between brother and brother, sister and sister, among the kinsmen. And see, that's what we don't understand, because it's been washed down by the Gentiles. All right. And so that, I'm not disheartened, but I knew some of the comments was gonna come. I received from a brother a response from a person who a Caucasian, Caucasoid, or however you want to say, white people, whatever. But the gentleman made it clear that I was probably racist, and I wanted to continue to bring up things from the past, and that we have this thing hanging over their heads. And so he just can't watch the rest of the series because it's clearly rooted in some type of racist or some type of, bitter point of view. It's just, I'm summing it up. I was going to read it to you guys, but I don't have to go into that. I'm just saying. So I want to go on record to say this. If you heard me when I started the series, I said this is not about pointing out race or, inferiority and superiority of races, in value of trying to bring out the truth. But more so just merely bringing out the truth and show that how far removed we are from the truth because of a certain notion which is enlarged. In Genesis 9:27, the word says that God shall enlarge Japheth. He, Japheth, shall dwell in the tents of Shem. Canaan shall be his servant. All right. So that notion right there has all of this video and all the content that we're going to bring out. It has it as a pillar and as a talking point to where we can now really go out and see what the rule of the Gentiles truly are. And so as we look at that, we're going to look and finish out this series. I mean, it's some things that, again, definitely going to make your skin boil because, this nation known as the Gentiles have done much. They have done much in destruction and changing around and uprooting truths and inserting lies, as you all obviously see from the series. So we're talking about the Gentiles coined the term, all right, or the idea of race. Now, don't be discouraged behind the print that I have over here because it kind of got messed up in the scan process. But hey, it'll work. You can see it. I can read it. Let's get down to the point. All right. The idea of race was developed as a direct response to the exploitation of other peoples to provide a pretext and a justification for the most unjustifiable conduct, the enslavement, murder, and degradation of millions of human beings. All right. That's what it was coined for. This is what Michael Bradley had brought out in the book Iceman Inheritance. And I can agree with that. Because as I look at all the pillaging, I look at all the treaties that you broke. I was just looking at this thing. That's one of the imprints we're going to talk about in the next series, where you look at Nestle and the foundation that they've built, being a foreign industrialized business. They're paying $200 a month to pump $2 million or 2 million gallons or whatever it is. And I'll bring out the exact facts. But it's something ridiculous what they're doing. And the people of their community are fighting against that because they're destroying the natural resource that is a Yah or God-giving right. And yet when asked, one of the executives of Nestle was asked, is that a God-given right? Yes, but when you see how she responds to some of the complaints, namely one, there's a Native American who came on and talked about a treaty between the Native Americans and America from the 1800s. And he talks about how it's not being honored. Well, why? Because of exploitation. And you utilize these things, just like Michael Bradley said, to exploit millions of human beings. That's what you do. That is exactly what you do. Let's go on. All right. So let's look right here. This says Javan is a Gentile, and the Greeks come from him. All right. Now let's take a pause. All right, because I want to go out to the Bible app and I want to point some out to you. So this is Genesis chapter 10. And here in Genesis chapter 10, I'm going to read it. All right. And what I have pulled up is the Bible concordance numbers, which you definitely should be into, because that's how you really get the depth of meaning behind the word from the translation. All right. Here, verse 2, it says, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and look at there, Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Taraz. Well, let's click on Javan and see what we get. All right. Right here, it says from Hebrew 31:20, Javan, all right? And when you look at the BDB definition, Javan, Ionia, or Greece, those are Gentiles. The Greeks are Gentiles. A son of Japhet and a grandson of Noah. All right, Greece, Ionia, Ionians. Noun, proper locative. All right, location of the descendants of Javan. And so when I show you that on the map, and you see that, you see, guess what? Greece is located in the territory that was given to Japhet. And that territory that was given to Japhet was around the Caucasus Mountains, all right? And so then that's where we have all of these northern nations that was spread north when it came down to dividing the land between Ham, Shem, and Japhet. All right, so let's get back to it. I'm going to pause it, and then we'll be right back in. All right. Here we're talking about, it says in this chapter from Michael Bradley's Iceman Inheritance, it says Greek gifts. All right, Western technology. Now let's take that, Greek gifts. So again, this is something that Michael Bradley is pointing out about the Greeks, which we know are Gentiles. And let's take a look at what he's saying here. Nuclear war, environmental pollution, resource rape. Didn't I just got through mentioning that about the thing with Nestle? But how can this guy that sent the message in about the O.I.M series say that he can't watch it because we're pulling out history when we got things that's going on in current event that's taking place now? That's why we got to go to the imprint, because you got to see the rule of the Gentiles for yourself. All right. It says resource rape. All primary threats to our survival and all are the result of peculiarity Caucasoid behavior. Again, we talked about behavioral trait, and this is what he said. This is peculiarity of Caucasoid behavior. Caucasoid values. Caucasoid psychology. There is no way to avoid the truth. The problem with the world is white men. Now, he said it. Michael Bradley, you see it right there. You see it on screen. He is saying this. A white man calling out the white man's problem. Hey, this is not about race. All you get offended. But we're talking about, look, Greek, Caucasoid, white man, Caucasus Mountains, the map, the truth, Genesis 10. We can't avoid it. We looked it up. In Hebrew, Javan was related to the Greeks. And then here it is. He's talking about Greek gifts. Okay? So there's no way around it. Let's keep going. All right? All right. All the modernizations of the Gentiles are doing more harm. Let's see what Michael Bradley has to say about that. In 1974, the United Nations World Health Organization, all right, released statistics that were a bitter pill for our progressive pretensions to swallow. Of all males reaching the age 20, men in industrialized countries have a lesser chance of attaining the age 65 than their brothers in underdeveloped countries. The inescapable conclusion is that non-Caucasoids were always better off without our notion of progress, and we ourselves are beginning to be better off without it. Well, let me bring to mind. You got 5G. 5G is getting ready to come out. Now, the research is already there on the level of radiation and interference from the environment that's going to come forth from this, that's going to do much harm in brain cancer and so many other facets of natural creation, which our Father in heaven has created. And the inventions, the technology, Western technology of the Greeks, all right, is coming forth and it's going to do much harm. Well, let me go out to this and bring this to mind for you guys. I want you to read this. This is from Revelation, all right? Revelation 11:18 KJV version, and I want you to hear this. The nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints. So this is a time that now has come where the reward of the saints is here, and for the reward of the prophets, but also for the wrath to come upon the nations. But listen what it says. And them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. See, during the rule of the Gentiles, they're destroying the earth. And that time is coming. See, that's why I got to keep bringing you back to the word, to what's happening, so that you don't lose focus, that you don't be fooled by these things what's going on. All right. There are those who will realize the truth about history. Well, let's look at what Michael Bradley is talking about here, because I get excited about this. All right. This is what Michael Bradley says, all right, in the concept of race. I freely admit that I have used the term race for the very purpose of harnessing the emotionalism of the term towards a different end from that professed by other racists. It is in my purpose to turn our Caucasoid prejudice back onto ourselves once we have seen that we do tend to differ from other kinds of men in at least one behavioral parameter, aggression. You hear what he said? However, I also realize and will attempt to show that our Caucasoid aggression isn't innate and immutable results from evolutionary and cultural experiences. Our predisposition for aggression is genetic only, in the sense that environment and culture have tended to select aggression and preserve. All right, let's see what else we got here. Cumbersome nature and external combustion. All right. So let's go down and look at some of the things that he has put here. All right. Let's get situated there. All right. Boom. All right. Let's look at what I have highlighted right here. Generations of slavery. All right. Because, you know, again, in classifying men according to race, then you get a chance to place such thought and such philosophy against men whom you really don't know much about, but because you was able to conquer them through their mind, you was able to conquer them through the conquest of desire for what you wanted to enlarge, then you in the process you have ravaged their history and their true way of living, who they really should be presented as, among people. Generations of slavery and lack of social and educational opportunities for black and merit fulfillment had inevitably resulted in poor development of these people and their offspring in comparison with the whites. The cultural gulf between these blacks and Americans and whites was presented as evidence of natural, biological, and moral inferiority. Their inferiority and consequent slavery was a matter of natural law. Witness the following quotation from the 19th century sources. The red ant will issue in regular battle array to conquer and subjugate the black or Negro ant. These Negro slaves perform all the labor of the communities into which they are brought. Upon this definition, therefore, of the law of nature, Negro slavery would seem to be perfectly consistent with that law. In mental and moral development, slavery, so far from retarding, has advanced the Negro race. Now look what it says, slavery advanced us. Contact with the Caucasian is the only civilizer of the Negro, and slavery the only condition on which that contact can be preserved. To prove that all men have equal right to liberty and all outward comforts of life is to invert the order that God hath set in the world, who hath ordained different degrees of orders of men, some to be high and honorable. Y'all hearing this? Some to be low and despicable. Some to be monarchs, kings, princes, and governors, masters, and commanders. Others to be subject to the commanded. Servants of sundry sorts and degrees, bound to obey. Yea, some to be born slaves, and so to remain during their lives, as hath been proven. Now look at that mindset. Look what I put. Look at the evil arrogance that make your flesh turn. You hear these freaking... Now, I can go in and start calling terms and snares, but that ain't what I'm going to do. But I wanted you to hear that because these folks are extremely ridiculous. Extremely ridiculous. Look at the philosophy. Look at the mindset. And so that stuff is ingrained in the hearts and the minds. So I look at some of these people. You know, I was driving home one day. You know, the area I live in, guess what? There is rarely a black-skinned person because we moved out and not fearing, not worrying about, you know, the people around us. But at the least to say, I was driving home and there was people, white people, out in the middle of the street, had their car parked, had his family out. I had my family in the car. We're driving home. And so me being cordial, not having hate in my heart, I wave. I smile. And the man standing there smoking a cigarette frowned and looked away. I said, look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Can't stop the hate. It's just ingrained because you have that philosophy that we just read that Michael Bradley brought out. Hey, thank you guys. Hey, we're going to cut this video short and we're going to pick back up with video F. And we're going to end it on video F of O.I.M. Part 3. Hey, you guys have a blessed day. Shalom, shalom.